Well, good morning. All right, good morning, Melissa Doppler. Thank you for warming things up in here. Chris Alexander, hello, my dear friend. Mark, what's going on? Good morning to you. Good morning from sunny Seattle. Congratulations, that's awesome. I hope your world travels are travelicious. Charles, what's going on? Living the dream. I love that. Excellent. Zach Lee, hello. All right, Venice, California. Love that. Okay, well, let's dig right in. First of all, I am in rig building mode, and behind me, hold on. Let's go this way. There we go. We got baby boy back there. So I have been kind of on a little bit of mergers and acquisitions, gathering gear. So one of the things I do want to talk about today is gear and finding your sound and kind of, wherever your center is musically, the role the gear takes it. The interesting thing is, as I was kind of pulling all the stuff together this morning, it's amazing how when you plug into something, that is a Mark 7. Hey, you got a great eye there. Hold on a second. Gosh darn, I've done a major studio clean, and actually almost everything is in place, but not totally yet. But I'm going to be getting some extra cameras going. There we go. There's the Mark 7 there. That amplifier, I'm going to be doing a bunch of content around that amplifier and boogie stuff in general. Let me get off my cable there. And so it really just, that is the Mark. This is one of the interesting things. Gib Green, what's going on there, my dear friend? Hang on a second. One of the great things about getting older is, let me just be absolutely positive which channel I am in there. Come on, you right there. And that is the Mark IV channel. And so it's really interesting how you will resonate with a particular sound. And this Mark IV... and I'm using the... shotgun mic. Braden, what's going on? Eric, hello. Gib, I think of you and I think of Berkeley, so it's still kind of the Georgia thing, but in any case, I'm getting used to it. All right, Chris's comment. Okay, so, oh boy, well, that's about, I don't know, I'd say that's maybe 4 point. Stefano, hello, my dear friend. Okay, so Chris's comment, I've been holding off on one. I've heard it doesn't sound as boxy as the JP2C. So that's let me gently sidestep some of that. One, the clean channel on this amplifier. Let's get over here. The clean channel in particular, I don't have my foot switch hooked up. That's a very pretty clean channel. Down in the number 2 pickup selection there. For me, I'm always looking for the bonding experience, right? I think that if there's anything, when we want to grab something and start playing, being able to just kind of start making music and having the gear kind of lead you to something. Because I'll hear a sound. one chord will lead to the next, right? And when the gear is giving you kind of that inspired sonic feedback, you will, in my opinion, respond in an inspired way, because it's going to take you someplace where you just hear something, right? It's just it's if you will, kind of the grease that kind of greases the wheels. So the Petrucci amp, by design, the reason I went over the clean channel, it is a very stiff clean channel. It's not designed to break up. Where the first channel, especially in the clean, this is without looking, gosh darn it, what am I on? I should know this. What am I on? I am on, oh, right, of course. So basically, on channel 1, there is just plain the clean, and then there's the fat, and then there's the crunch. And so what's neat is that the fat and the crunch are replicated between channel 1 and channel 2, so you can basically have kind of two versions of that same sound. The clean sound, unlike the Petrucci amp, which is designed not to break up because John will use a compressor, but if you think about the way John uses the clean channel in the framework of Dream Theater, there's so much information happening with the band that you don't necessarily want that. So the clean channel on this, and let me add a little of, let me bring the bass up. Something you're not supposed to do sometimes on a, and I realize we're on the shotgun here, so. But that's all sorts of. Actually, I did have the bass a little bit lower than I probably wanted. Generally, one of the things in boogie tone thing is that you generally don't want to have your bass above 12 noon, which is a. But that clean channel is really, really pretty and very, very Fendery. So then let's get over to the number 2 channel here, which is a channel where I spent a lot of time. This is now set up for the Mark 7 tone. Ironically enough, I use the Mark 7 channel, and there are, again, like I mentioned a moment ago, there are 3, I should say, Mark 7 mode. There are 3 channels: channel 1, channel 2, and channel 3. And channel 2 has Mark 7 mode. It also has a replica of the fat and the crunch channel, which are both great, but I really like the Mark 7 channel. It's very classic boogie, warm, not too distorted unless you start turning the gain way up. But it's really nice if you like to play with your fingers, or you just like a little bit more. A little bit more of a classic rock vibe that's got a little bit more hair to it than, say, the crunch does. But then over here on my favorite, when it really comes to I do realize that was a little bit of a jump in volume there, but that channel has the ability to get intimate if you bring the volume down. when you bring up the volume, especially in the bridge pickup. Yeah. So I am a bit biased there, Charles. But if you're looking for somebody, Raphael, what's going on, my dear friend? How are you? Great to see you. Rafa has this amazing album, and you're going to see some promotion on my social media this week talking all about it. So, but as the last thing I appeared on playing live, or playing in the studio, or live in the studio or something. Brilliant. Rafa, great to see you, my dear friend. Hello, hello, hello. Zach, yeah, you know, my guitar strap is in the case. How about that? Jeff, what's going on? Hello, my dear friend. Hello, hello, hello. Great to see so many familiar and friendly faces. John Mello, hello, hello. M. Karras, what's going on there, my friend? How's everything going on up north? There you go. Clearly, definitely inspires. I also write differently on a Strat versus an LP or 335. I couldn't agree with you more. The interesting thing, and I'm kind of going down the list here, so I'll catch up with you. Sonia, good morning. Steve Greenleaf, Pure Vita Doug, thanks so much, my dear friend. What I kind of tried to do with this guitar, and we're really happy with the end results, is that in the bridge pickup, you kind of get Les Paul. Number two, you get a little Strat. Let me get over here. Back to number one. It's a DiMarzio 36th anniversary PAF, so even on its own, just in the all the way in the bridge, sounds pretty. Number two. Very stratty. In the middle, there's no tone control in the circuit. Like in the number 4 position. Kind of stratty, but at the same time, if you hit it in the right way, a little Gibson-y, if you will. And the neck pickup, this is the Sox Staniak pickup. This, by the way, is the Virtual 2 middle model from DiMarzio. But it gets pretty darn stratty, so I've kind of got a variety of tones that I can go to in one instrument, which for me is kind of the big win. It's a giant win, actually. So kind of one instrument I can do it from. That means I'm not kind of searching for that next instrument to try and pull that stuff out, and I'm not having to switch guitars live if I'm not wanting to. Okay, hang on. All right, first of all, good. Yeah, Chris is through the microphone. So I did a little test this morning. I'm going to be changing a bunch of things around kind of sonically, but this is this little guy right here, the shotgun microphone. So it's not the most ideal way. It sounds far better in the room. But I'm going to be changing how I get into, with this rig, how I get into the live setup here. But yes, so today's topic, gear acquisition. Oh, I love this. So I'm going to be doing a video, and I'm in the process of working on the pieces of it. And I'm going back down the list, and I have not forgotten about you, Charles. We're going to get there in just a moment as we kind of circle back to this. I've been putting together, I've been rigging, as it's kind of like knitting, but with putting rigs together. So basically, one of the things that I'm trying to decide, and I'm wanting to kind of hopefully get other people having that conversation as well, is mono, dual mono, stereo, what the advantages are, and then putting together different rigs of different sizes depending on what it is that you need to do. Many of the people that I know have a room where they do music, where kind of in years past, many of us might have had a band, and the band rehearsal space was where our gear lived. If we wanted to hang out with our rig, we had to get in a vehicle and go to that space. Things have changed a lot, I think, for many people, whether it's age, whether it's proximity to gear, whether it's having enough living space where you can have a gear room, right? But in the process of all of this, one of the things is that how we go about buying gear, and how we go about selling gear. Sorry, if I said buying gear, I meant selling gear, because to fund the acquisitions, we need to sell it. So the short version is that I've been kind of tracking my listing habits in terms of how I research gear, how I find the best day of the week to list stuff on, which is generally Friday. There are a couple of different, I'm just going to give you the short version here, but there will be a longer version, but I'm just going to kind of give it off the dome for you. One is I'll stock pieces of gear that I'm going to sell. Generally have a 1 to 2 to 4 week gestation period watching what the marketplace is doing. There are a couple of hacks of how you can get in rather than just doing a search and seeing what, on kind of a main listing page for a particular piece of gear. There's some tricks on how you can get into view sold listings that sometimes, because of the way they've changed the code, you got to have this little piece of code called marketplace just after reverb.com/, and then you can tack on your word to that with, I think, the HTML character for space, which is %20, whatever the heck that is. In any case, then you can get in and take a look, and you can organize that by how recently the solds were, and you can take a look at how frequently a piece of gear is sold, what the price was. Sometimes it'll let you, depending on where you are on that page, actually get to the listings, and other times it won't. It's a little quirky. But in so doing, you're able to track what's in current inventory, what's been sold, and then kind of get a feeling for how frequently they've been sold, and how much of a demand there is for a particular piece of gear. And in turn, there are a couple of different types of buyers and types of sales you might want to have. One, when I put something up, I want to be within kind of all the gear that I generally sell is in excellent condition. So I'll kind of look for the other gear that I'm going to be competing with, and if it's something that's too reasonably priced, I won't list that same week, and I'll wait till that particular piece of gear sells, so I'm not competing with that. In turn, then I kind of, there are a couple of different types of buyers. There's a Friday morning buyer. The Friday morning reverb buyer is looking to just score the deal that's the best price before the rest of the weekend all the people get on there. That's a motivated buyer. That's a buyer you want to catch if you're not just putting something up for a long-term listing. So my goal is, when I actually get to the point of listing something, I want to sell it within the next 7 days generally. And generally speaking, most of the stuff I list sells within 14 days, usually in the first week. Because I watch it long enough and I kind of price my stuff such that I'm going to be the one that you're like, great condition, great price, 5 stars, done. Make it really easy. The other thing is that I've gotten good at is embellishing, just kind of like, hey, you know what? Appreciate your taking a look at my piece of gear. Music matters to all of us. Thanks for thinking of my piece of gear, looking at my listing as part of your potential musical journey. Because, Melissa and I had this conversation yesterday. It's not like you're just selling a flippin' tire. you're selling something that's going to complete somebody's musical quest for a moment, and hopefully for a long moment. And so with that in mind, kind of speaking to the musician thing as opposed to like, putting up there and not cleaning it and all that, just the crazy and stupid stuff that people do. All right, there will be more on that coming soon. John, what's going on? Andy Guitar, hello. Brett, great to see you. I hope your mom is doing as well as is humanly possible. Been thinking of you, my friend. Kevin Wayne Carr, great to see you. Doug in his soundscapes for breakfast. Amen. Thank you so much. You're so kind. Rosie, hello. I don't know any AC/DC Thunderstruck. My bad. So sorry. All right. Okay. I'm looking for a Brian May special guitar. There we go. Paul Richard, hello. There we go. Percentage assigned 20 is just a blank. All right, hang on a second. Gosh darn it. All right, hang on a second. Here we go. Let me find my... yeah, so let's say... So here we go. Yeah, so the percentage sign's 20. Thank you for that. I can't... yes, I can. Let me find my... so basically, what's going on, CC? What's going on? Hello. Okay, first of all, it is percentage sign 20. So basically, what you do is, let's say you wanted to look for a GCB 95. That's the Dunlop wah. So you'd put reverb.com/marketplace, percentage tied 20, GCB 95, and hit return, and you'd get the a results page that in turn, when you look at all the filters, enable you to sort by show. One of the options you get is the sold listings, and that's where I kind of find all the stuff that I do my research on. Thank you for that, Sonia. You're precisely correct. It is a blank, and so it is, gosh darn it, coding away. All right. So that said, so Charles is talking about the Sweetwater Gear Exchange, such a great place to sell gear. I have not yet bought or sold anything on the Sweetwater Gear Exchange, but they've been kind of working on that for a while. And for those of you who don't know, one of the other things that they've got, Charles, you would know about this, they have a kind of you can use credit. I think when you sell stuff there, you can get kind of an extra credit when you go to buy something on Sweetwater. A buddy of mine was telling me about that. So in any case, thank you, Rick. I love this shirt too. One of my favorites. All right, getting back to this boogie thing, gosh darn it. Boogies, when you turn them up above noon, they can get flubby in the bottom end. And flubby is generally not a word that we like in our tone. Mark, if I didn't see you before, hello. So the thing about the Mark 7, which I'm going to be doing a bunch of content around. Got a great clean channel, very Fendery. There is a kind of in the remodel of what's going on in the back here. There is a Mark IIB it's a non EQ Mark IIB that is just an amazing clean sound. So I'm going to be doing a little bit of content that you may see on my socials, and you may see it pop up on Mesa Boogie's Instagram. And so it's comparing the Mark IIB that's in here with an actual Mark IIB. But the other thing is the clean channel. I'm going to compare that with that of the Mark IIB, which is one of the best cleans I've ever heard. And this is a gorgeous sound. Getting back to the JP2C, this clean channel is designed to give. It's designed to break up, and the louder you turn it up, the more it wants to do that. The other thing is it's got the multi-watt functionality that allows you to go from simulclass to Class A pentode and Class A triode, so you can really choose how much it breaks up. And you can make it sound more and more, if you will, tweedy as you kind of manipulate the sounds. The Petrucci amp is really designed to be a very spanky amplifier. I would not use the word boxy. Before I went to this channel, and I'm probably maxing out my mic there, my apologies. I was using the amp that preceded this was the Mark 525 using, and there is a little bit of hum that happens back there, but there we go. I'm in the number 2 channel. That was number 3 channel in Mark 4 mode. That's number 3 channel in Mark 7 mode. Great sound, really emotive. I'm very touch sensitive. Like literally, I'm playing quieter than my voice, but I can get to the point where it'll actually drown out my voice. So it's an extremely dynamic amp. The Mark, I said this to somebody the other day, and I may regret saying this, quote unquote, live, but probably for the money, the Mark 525 is the best boogie out there. It's just an insanely great amplifier. It has all the groovy kind of, you can mess with the different channels. It's only a 2-channel amplifier, so there is that, and it is only 25 watts. But in combination with something like a Seymour Duncan Power Stage 700, and I was touring with that, Larry Mitchell and I did a couple of shows together. I was using the FM9 and that and the Power Stage 700. I've since got an FM3, which is kind of down there in the rack of Little Boy, and then in the back there, you can see Big Boy, which has got, that's where the Axe FX3 lives now. That's where the Power Stage 700 lives, over here. There we go. Although I'm not using it right now. Let me not run over my pedal board. We've got this guy right here, which is the pair of Power Stage 170s. So I'm not actually using it because I'm just running in mono into the 2412s this morning. But what I'm going to end up doing is going through and building a couple of different types of rigs. That Mark 7 sounds, so interestingly enough, Charles, and I apologize that I'm jumping around a little bit, but I've been known to do that. I've never played the stiletto, so part of what I'm trying to do is I'm kind of getting up to speed on my boogiedom, is trying to get my hands on pretty much everything that I possibly can and getting to know the different amplifiers. I've got a buddy that has loaned me a bunch of stuff, so there's multiple Mark 3s here and multiple Mark 2s, including and then a Mark 1 prototype combo that literally, it's pre-Mark 1, it's pre-serial number, and it has a plexi faceplate. And then this next week, in theory, I'm going to get my hands on, or set in motion finding, a buddy of mine is going to loan me an original Prune Boogie, one of the actual Princetons. And I've had that amp on loan before, but I reached out to the guy that owns the amp, and he's going to loan that amp back to me. So I'm very excited about it. So I'm going to kind of be able to chronicle these different generations of boogies, but they're amps like the Stiletto, that I've never had a chance to play. There also, I ran into a guy that had a Transatlantic that loved that amp. That ironically, I bought one of those. I bought one of the Power Stage 170s from him the other day. All that to say, I'm experimenting with different types of rigs and different ways to make the sound happen. I am a stereo fanatic, but what I'm trying to get used to is see if I can dig playing in mono or dual mono. And I'm going to go slightly down the rabbit trail here and explain why and where we would want to go in dual mono. So one of the things is like, well, everything we listen to these days is in stereo until you end up in a venue with a mono PA. Did that the other night. I kind of, going into that gig, I was like, I'm just going to experiment with just playing in mono and see if I can kind of stomach it, because I love the one delay on one side and the other on the other, dotted eighth, quarter note, whatever. I love having modulation sometimes on one side and not on the other. The challenge is when you sum that to mono, sometimes that can be bad. One of my other favorite hacks, and there are going to be examples of this as I go through these various rigs and create these rig demos, is actually going in stereo, panning your delays left and right, and flipping the phase on one of them. The challenge is if you bring them back into mono, what will happen is because the phase is inverted on the delays, they'll start to cancel each other out. And it's a real problem because your delay, this beautiful lush delay, all of a sudden goes away. Kind of conversely, if you've got kind of a nice dotted eighth on one side and a quarter note on the other, sounds great separated until you merge the two of them together, and all of a sudden you've got this giant sea of delay that your direct signal is getting lost. So there are a number of disadvantages to dealing with stereo signals when you don't have a great front of house person. I was also on the series of shows that I did with Larry Mitchell. Larry plays in stereo and gets a brilliant sound, but I watch him have a tussle from the stage with a sound guy who insisted that they had the left and the right properly left and righted, and that they had all the phase correct and all of that. And Larry was up on stage just going, "No, I don't think so." He was super calm about it, but the sound guy was just being that dude, just couldn't help himself. And Larry was like, "Well, I tell you what, why don't you come up on stage and listen to these monitors, and you tell me if it sounds like they're, the phase is inverted." And sure enough, the guy came up and was like, "Oh, well, and I'm just like, really? Must you?" But watching all that unfold, I kind of went, and quite often, as a kind of an opener, if you will, or whatever, or sometimes playing at venues that don't have a stereo PA, all of that, you're at the mercy of whoever it is front of house. Most of the time, the sound techs are great. But most of the time, you'll be better off presenting a mono signal. So the concept of a dual mono, where one of those is literally you're just using some sort of IR, so you're choosing which speaker, which microphone, which placement. This is what the front of house is going to get. Thank you very much. Just give me an XLR. There you go. Have the ability to have a ground lift back there such that in case there is some sort of hum, you can fix that. Story over. So that's where that dual mono really can serve you well. I'm going to be kind of creating a wet, dry, wet rig using the two 412 cabinets here. I've talked about this before. Two 412 cabinets. There's stereo, the inner two, if you will, columns of 212s. That'll be the dry signal, and the left and right wet on either side. And then I'm going to be using some routing either with the two-note stuff, the back of the boogie, or fractal to create three separate feeds that will come out into this, and I'll be able to demonstrate what that sounds like. In theory, with some fancy routing, I'll also be able to kind of go between a couple of different types of rigs and demonstrate that kind of live on the fly. Let's see if that works. The Stratiest V out there. John, thank you very much. Very kind. So Brett, to your comment, which is now, that's a half a point font. The thing I've noticed about Gibson guitars is each model, they all have a unique voice and very recognizable. Like I can tell Les Paul or an SG or V when I hear them. Very much so. The interesting thing about this guitar is that because we've done so much to it, it's a little confused as to what it is. Am I a Strat? Am I a Les Paul? It's not super Les Paul until you get into the bridge, right? And then it gets more Les Paul-y, but it's a very interesting guitar. Okay. So stereo, there we go. Charles, stereo is great. I appreciate dual mono as well. And yeah, I've got gas right now, but I'm primarily purchasing guitars. Lucky you. So the thing about the mono thing is that I'm trying to decide if, I really love kind of hearing the ears being tickled on either side. So I'm going to build a couple of different rigs and kind of share the experience of building these amps into them. So part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of go back and retroactively visit each of the rigs that I've used over the past 6 months, starting with the JP2C, the gig, and John was there. I opened for Neely Brosh. That was, I think, the first gig, and I think I recounted that, but I will recount it. Basically, I had put together this all modeling rig. I was using, it's actually what's in this cabinet here, the F12 X200 or the F12M 150. I don't remember which ones, but the Celestion full range live response speakers, which are great. But I was having to apply EQ, and I didn't have enough time to really kind of go. I remember what it was. It started, I had a great sound going direct into my speakers, and then when I tried to recreate it through the larger cabinet, the translation, I just couldn't get it one-to-one, and that for me is very frustrating. So I kind of went, and quite often what I'll do when I find myself in a situation like that that'll start to be like 3 p.m. the day before I have to go to the gig, and quite often my hair's in a ponytail, and just take myself up to the shower and just go, all right, so you get in the shower, just think about it. Immediately went, I'm going to storage, I'm grabbing the Boogie 412s, I'm going to grab the JP2C, I'm going to wire it up with the FM. No, I'm going to AXFX3. I'm going to split it stereo using the Cab Clone IR, and that's how I'm going to do it. And I plugged it in about 15 minutes. I was like, there it is. I love the JP2C. I did not find it to be boxy. It may have to do with whatever cabinet you're running into. I love that amp. I don't think I was using it on the Mark IIc Plus channel. As much as I love the Mark IIc Plus, and I've got a Mark IIc Plus, for kind of my particular thing, it's not just the voicing that I'm looking for my particular music per se. But what a great sound. I wouldn't have bought one if I didn't love the way it sounds, and it's in all these different amps. But the Petrucci amp, I was like, wow. Just the thing that I love about this channel right here. It's nice and high gain, but literally in every register of the guitar, it's still got a prettiness about it that's classically boogie, but a higher gain boogie. So the point being is that was one of the things. Hello, we're gonna put you in the other channel. There we go. By the way, Boss has a new fancy pants Waza noise gate, and I'm gonna be putting together. Oh, there we go. No, that's not it. PBC 6X. It's a looper, but not like looping the same sound over, but it's a looper switcher made by the guys at RJM. And that I'm going to put one down in the rack there in both Big Boy and Little Boy. And that's just going to enable me to kind of put some things in the loop back there and have them switch on and off, and it's all going to be controlled via MIDI. I've also got all these great boxes from this company that makes witty wireless MIDI interface stuff that's going to be really cool. So I am grooving on that in a serious way. So the thing about the Mark VII, Charles, is like it's kind of all these great boogie amps in one, and I just love it. Okay, okay, Mike Mitchell, hello, great to see you. I saw a couple dual rectifiers on GCU's listings that caught my eye. Jimmy Jet, what's going on? Great to see you, my friend. Yes, okay, there we go, Charles, and I if I bring this over, this might even be a quarter of a point font. Yes, you can get paid with a Sweetwater gift card and for 0 fees. Hugely beneficial for me lately as I'm gearing up for some shows in 24. Awesome. Congratulations, Charles. That's great. Jimmy Jet. Yeah, so I think I actually have 2 of the Jimi Hendrix wah-wah. And those are great pedals. There we go. And it has a wonderful voicing on it, and they're beautiful. Yes. Yes, Charles. Buy with 90 days, same as cash. And that way sell to buy at the same time. There we go. We have some gear flippers here. Do you okay? So Brett is asking, do you have anything done to my boogies to make them more roadworthy? So the interesting thing is, there are some folks that have said they have not found the boogies to be roadworthy. I have spent a past 6 months kind of cruising across the country. I'm pretty careful with my gear. I have had zero issues. Wait. There we go. Adrian, hold on a second. Congratulations. Oh, wait. Sorry. Adrian Tackman, I just bought the small Mark 525 combo inspired for you. Had to be creative because Mesa did not ship to Europe. Very clever. No, that's being worked on right now. Fervently, I think would be the word. But so, Adrian, do you love the amp or do you love the amp? I love that little amp. It's first of all stupidly loud. It sounds great. It's got an amazing clean sound, and it's extremely versatile. And it's just kind of like, wow. You know, the funny thing is that, you know, there's in Boogie World, there's a little bit, and I apologize if I'm a little Boogie nody today, but I've been kind of immersed in a Boogie universe for the past several weeks. But they didn't do a Mark 6, which is kind of, I mean, they were saying there was a prototype and they kept working on it. And by the time they got to what's become the Mark 7, it was so much different and kind of more evolved past even what the Mark 6 was. But I could have seen, although it's a, you know, a 25 and then a 35 watt amp, with the exception of the wattage, in my opinion, the Mark 5 25, you know, it's got some extra juice, as I recall, compared to the Mark V, which I only played very briefly. But there's a bunch of extra switches on the Mark V that make it, when you first kind of look at the amp, start dialing in tones. I had an experience. I was out at Sweetwater doing a gear thing with them, and it was when the Petrucci guitar had just come out, and I was doing a demo kind of live on the air, although there was a problem with the stream, so it ended up being kind of repurposed and repackaged and just kind of uploaded to the web after the fact. Different story. But the idea was that, you know, I was going to demonstrate the Petrucci guitar, the Majesty, through Mark V, because at that point the JP2C didn't exist. And so, you know, I had them grab one out of inventory, and that amp took me a whole bunch of time to figure out how to use, because there's so many different controls. That was one of the things they wanted to kind of narrow a little bit, just make it easier to dial in tones. And either I know a lot more than I did then, which is probably true, but the Mark 7 was very straightforward. You just kind of go, okay, this is what it is, and start dialing in tones, and I found it to be much more user-friendly. And the same thing was the Mark 5 25. I'm just like, I plugged into it, I'm like, oh, boom, go. It was a very easy to use amp, and if it weren't a 25 watt amplifier, I would say it would have been a nice candidate for the Mark 6 moniker. In any case, I digress. Brenton, hello. Buddy just finished a great show. Now 3-hour drive home. Holy cow! So getting back to the reliability thing, I have had zero issues with these amps. I did have to take my Mark II C Plus back to Boogie. I blew a tube, and what's really cool is the amp. The moment that happened, the fuse went, the amp turned off, and it was totally safe, and all they did was put in new tubes and give it a little checkup, and that was it. So, you know, I found them to be exceedingly reliable, no weirdness, no drama. So I haven't done anything. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, here we go. Just added a used Guild C30 with case and K&K. I take it that's the pickup for $11.99. Congratulations. Okay, yes, that Mark 7 has a tight, has such a tightly rich and full gain structure, whereas the JP2C, you can get a bit boxy. So, you know, I'm gonna revisit the JP2C, and it's set exactly where I had it set. By the way, just in case any of y'all don't do this, I always photograph my settings so I can go back chronologically and kind of go, okay, where did I have this set, in case I start sliding stuff around or things get moved in the midst of moving around. One of the features I love about the JP2C is it's got the 2 graphic EQs. That feature is super rad. So I have today arriving, they are temporarily unavailable, but I've got the Mesa Boogie 5-band EQ that I bought on Reverb. That's going to be arriving today. And in particular, as I kind of A-B the Mark IIB channel that's in here and the actual Mark IIB amp that I've got, I'll be able to put the 5-band EQ in the loop of the Mark IIB, which again didn't have a 5-band EQ, and at least begin to kind of approximate those two tones. The other thing that's neat about that is I can use that in the loop here and through the fancy MIDI programming. Say, for example, I want to have a different graphic EQ for the second and third channels. Now I can do that with the PBC6X and be able with MIDI turn that on and off remotely on a preset by preset basis. Where am I going to be mapping my presets from as the master? Probably the Fractal Audio. There we go. This little guy right here. The FM3, and then that's going to be kind of MIDI home. And the reason I'm going to do it like that is because if I happen to swap out an amp or something, the sounds that I'm going to be dialing in there, that's kind of the common factor of what I'm going to be using there. Eric Martin Bureau, great to see you. All right, the Mesa Boogie Blue Angel Rocks, Blues SRV tone. Right. That's another one of the amps that I haven't played, so it's kind of an interesting thing, but I check. I'm trying to make a mental list of all the different boogie amps that have been made, right? Subway, Rocket, and just all the Stiletto. I don't believe I've ever played a Lone Star Special. I have a Lone Star over there, and the difference between a Lone Star Special. We have a lot of boogie holics here. The Lone Star Special is an EL84 amp, where the Lone Star is an is a 6L6, or I think you could also put in EL34s, but generally it was designed to be a 6L6, very Fendery circuit, just a brilliant amplifier that also has a tweed mode. Okay, if there's any amp Boogie should put back into production, it is the Stiletto Trident. Okay. All right. If you're a stereo fan, get the rack TC1210 Spatial Expander. Really? More money spent. Thank you, Jimmy. I will. Hey, Mel, more money. No. Mono summing can actually cause phase issues. So the interesting thing about all of this is, I don't know why I'm going to switch over to console, but basically the Universal Audio console application has a mono button that you can use for summing. So anytime, one of the places you can get into trouble in summing is if there is latency, and this is where they're offset and you can get some strange things happening. But one of the benefits of dual mono is, generally speaking, as long as everything is the same on both sides, it offers a good way to have basically the same bass sound and the same set of controls used to send one signal left, if you will, and one signal right, but you're sending the same thing to the left and the right. And again, you have the opportunity on the right signal, if you will, to then use some sort of cabinet modeling. And there, you can have issues if you're not kind of checking your phase. So there's that. Thank you very much. Great point. And let's just say, for example, point taken. So let's say you've got a cabinet and a microphone, and I had this happen with an SM57 where it was out of phase. So you got two cabinets, they're getting signal at the same time, but one of the microphones, the phase is inverted compared to the other. If they're getting the same signal and they were the same, if they were on the same cabinet, and I actually did it on a 212 cabinet, used the two different mics on the two different speakers, but one of them was out of phase, and basically cancels your signal. Small disaster. So yes, you need to check on that. Great points. Great things to check. Oh, excellent, Eric. Fantabulous. I have played a Dr. Z amp. It's kind of a funny thing that happens. 95Q, great pedal. More or less, the Dimebag wah that I've got, which is kind of my go-to wah. The 95Q was the pedal that more or less preceded the Petrucci wah, and that's what John was using for a long time. And I'm pretty sure the 95Q had the auto return. And so I sent my Dimebag wah Dunlop will do this. They'll put a feature where it kind of has an auto return, like some of you would be familiar with, like on a bad horsey, right? What's neat about it is you know when your wah is on, you know when it's off. It's a great feature, and I love that. And I think that started in the 95Q, right? I always rack my amps in an ATA case. Oh, so you have a JP2C. I guess racked. I've never had any issue with it. I've shipped that thing everywhere. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Sorry, I was reading that, so obviously at that font size. I don't know why I keep reading these in there. The Mark 590 watt is a super mid forward. It's tough dialing out the honk and the quack out of the Mark II C Plus mode. You know, the funny thing is, I had a devil of a time dialing that amp in. And interestingly enough, there's not a Mark V mode in the Mark VII, which I thought was very interesting. That's why I kind of keep checking back, like, it is Mark IV, it's not Mark V, it is Mark IV, it is not Mark V. And there just isn't a Mark V mode. And I think, as you've heard people talk about it, they felt that you kind of got further away from the essence of whatever the sound was and the speed of the signal, right? And you don't sometimes want a signal that's just stupid fast. That is to say, there's a little bit of bloom happening as opposed to like, ding, 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 in your face. There it is, classic boogie thing, and it's about my speaking volume. Just kind of amazing, when you think about how dialed their thing is and to be able to get that many different tones together. Okay, hang on a second. Charles, that Mesa 5 NEQ is such a lifesaver. I used two of them when I was running a Triaxis 290 rig. So the funny thing is, I was looking at a Triaxis this morning. I'm kind of like, who do I know that can loan me a Triaxis? Because if I try and explain, boy, Charles, how many boogies have you or do you own? Lone Star cleans are insanely rich and responsive. They are amazing. The other thing about the Lone Star is you can get the clean channel dirty and quote-unquote the dirty channel clean. It is probably the most versatile amplifier I've ever used. There we go, Melissa. Thanks a lot, Jimmy Jet. Paul Richard, is there a Mesa Boogie amp I prefer for small venues versus large venues? So, Paul, what a great question. Richard Doyle, does Boogie have an equivalent to my Fender Mustang for a quick portable and ignoring my rack? Yes, that is the Mark 525. And that, I think it was you that I said, Richard, to the other day. And thank you for, by the way, Richard, I actually sold some gear. So I sold Richard 2 halfback slant 412 cabinets. And there's a guy on the Boogie forum that's selling 2 full stacks. And I kind of was looking at it kind of going, why did I sell those again? I could have had 2 full halfback stacks. I'm like, something wrong with me. So in any case, Richard bought those and has now put the Celestion full range live response speakers, and they sound amazing. And he loaned them to me, and I returned them this week. And when I was doing that, I think, Richard, I mentioned the Mark 525 as being kind of like, for the amount of money and for the amount of amp you get, it's probably the best Boogie ever made. It's just, I like the Mark 7 more. But for the kind of like, it's small, you can take it with you anywhere. You can literally pack it in a roll-on bag and take it on an airplane. And that was, the kind of the Nashville rig that I've blabbered on about a couple of times. But it's really that sort of flexibility and that kind of tone. And even that amp on its own, you plug into and you're like, holy cow. It's an obscenely loud 25 watts and it just sounds great. And the FM3 in the loop is just like, you got kind of everything, and it's got a great clean channel. So that, I was using that, the 2 channels of that, and then the Eddie boost drive on the clean channel. That was kind of my third channel, and just an amazing sounding little amp. Amazing little amp. Great questions. All right, Paul Richard. So the interesting thing about this gig that I did a week ago this past Friday, here's the thing, is that, I'm going to be creating a crap ton of Boogie content because I'm a Boogie endorser and I'm a Gibson endorser, so there's all sorts of reasons that I'm going to be doing that. All great reasons, all reasons that I'm really excited about. And it's a tremendous opportunity to kind of be able to share my take on music and gear with this amazing community of, as noted by Charles, very engaged people who are madly passionate about it. But it's going to be done from a framework of like, hey, as I'm putting these rigs together, here's some ideas about how you can put all this together. You could, swap out whatever amp, like you've got the JVM, Paul, right? That's a great amp. And that, actually the funny thing is one of the conversation that I'm having with my guy at Boogie is kind of, what features that are in the Mark 7 are uniquely Boogie. And so, what's interesting is Boogie kind of started doing, if you go back to the Tri-Axis, there are all these classic Boogie amplifiers that are in there. And the Tri-Axis definitely predates the JVM. So in a sense, having all those different modes inside the Mark 7 is a very classic Boogie thing. And it, again, started with the Tri-Axis, where you've got all these different preamps from all these famous Boogie amplifiers. And so the JVM also has that. So it's not just a Boogie thing, but it is something that is kind of classically Boogie. Not in every Boogie amplifier, obviously, but it's something kind of now they do kind of, and it's one of the things that makes the Mark 7 an obscenely phenomenal amplifier. And you kind of got the best of the best. So that is to say, one of the things that I tried doing was I've got over there, and I'm going to be getting different cameras set up so we can kind of get better take on the room. And I'm actually thinking of going back to instead of a 9 by 16, going back to 16 by 9, so I can get some of the wider shots in here and kind of get better gear traction. I'm pretty much decided I'm going to do that. I may start shooting in the main part of the room there, so it'll allow me to kind of be able to do some things, or actually maybe set up both so I can kind of go back and forth and kind of wander back and forth. Need to do a little bit more thinking. You may find some experimentation happening on some weeks and seeking feedback. But I had the 112 Recto cabinet, which is what Petrucci uses on stage, and then a 112 mini rectifier slant. And so they sounded great in rehearsal in a small space. I found that in the venue, on stage, it sounded good, but when I was like, the drummer's cymbal was like right there, and I'm like, and it definitely, there's this thing called maskings. First of all, if you've got something that's like your amps, your head is here, there's a cymbal here, and your amp's back here, that's what masking is all about. And so my sound was kind of making its way very effectively through the sound of the cymbal. So fortunately, he was actually pretty cool. That was his ride cymbal, and I think he saw how close it was. Because the first time he hit it, I kind of turned around and looked at him, and he kind of looked up at me, and it's like, and I think he realized I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the ride, which was great. He dug into it every so often, but it's just like, holy cow. So first of all, that was the beginning of the like, oh, okay, your proximity to the drums means, and especially because literally the drums were a little further forward on stage than my rig, wasn't until the guy that I had the privilege of playing with, Danny Jones, another former Satriani student, he was playing, and I was all the way in the back of the room hanging out with my buddy, and more or less the snare drum was poking a giant hole in the guitar. And I went, bigger caps. That's the thing about anytime you're in a medium-sized venue, actually pretty much I think, unless it's a really small venue, and the Baked Potato is a small venue, but it's, I'm pretty sure even in a venue the size of the Baked Potato, I'll be taking at least one 412 cabinet, because the 412's cabinet, and I like to use an angled cabinet, so the tall, basically it's the rectifier standard versus traditional. The angled, you get great feedback because it's pointed up right at you. And the neat thing about these cabinets and the vintage 30s that are in there, and the tones that I go for, you can be really very close to these, and they sound really good. They're not kind of spiking you, and it gives you great feedback. So it means that you know what the audience is hearing. And I found that I get better results with this rig than I did with Marshall cabinets when I was using a JVM. I'm very, very happy with the way that information talks with itself. And so one of the interesting things about the smaller 112s is, like Boogie combos, they're kind of designed to be down by the floor. And they do a really good job of dispersing the sound. The problem is, because it's a single 12-inch speaker, it's only got so much throw. And you put a box with 412 cabinets, and the 90 watts is in there. That's a loud 90 watts. And when I flew with the Mark 525, I was flying with the Power Stage 700, which again is obviously 350 watts per side. Boogie provided a backline rectifier, standard, tall, but non-slant, which I really love. A little bit more bass response, but you don't get that feedback from that angle back top speaker. And I found that I really missed that, just that little bit on a more shallow stage. So to answer your question, I always liked straight 412 cabinets until I started using angled 412 cabinets. I got invited by Joe to be at one of the camps. I had a feeling I might be asked to sit in. So I thought, you know what, I need to bring an angled cabinet, and I'm really glad I did. And since then, I've been kind of like, okay, me and angled cabinets, because when you're on a smaller stage and you're the guy that's least likely to be turned up in the PA, you want to be able to know what the sound is like and just kind of be able to navigate that. You also need to have the ability to turn up nice and loud on a dime. And at that point, I was using the JVM. The only bummer about the JVM for me was when you're playing at an obscenely loud volume and too loud for the venue. When you get the JVM up to about 6, you start to get power amp distortion. The more you turn the amp up, it doesn't get louder. It just gets more overdriven in the power amp section. So I found that the Boogie Power, even though it breaks up on the clean channel, is at obscene volume that most people should never play at and will never need to play at. But if you're standing next to Paul Gilbert and Joe Satriani and they're playing through their loud rigs, and you need to try and keep up with that sort of thing, that's when that headroom really matters, and it's actually when it really matters. So yeah, so that's and again, lessons learned from Andy Timmons and John Petrucci. Anytime you hear Andy Timmons at one of these at a jam, the moment he steps on solo tone, the sound pressure level just pushes you back in the room. Now I realize he's using a range of things, but I'm talking about as I've seen him playing in a band, sitting in situations, been using the Lone Star stuff, and it's just like the sheer sound pressure level just pushes you back. You're like, whoa. Same thing with John Petrucci when you see him at the camps. Many of the guys are using fractals, great, amazing technology, but running through the PA, it's just nothing compares to the sound of the Boogie's tone, especially John Petrucci playing it, and those cabinets just basically hitting you in the solar plexus, and you're like, darn. And it's just really the difference of having the Boogie cabs in the room. I'm just like, the cabs make a huge difference. So that is to say, to reread your question, Paul, and make sure I'm answering it literately as opposed to illiterately. Come on, scroll. Where is Paul? Where are you, baby? What happened that you've scrolled to the bottom of my scroll? Where are you? Where, Paul? Paul. There we go. So is there a Boogie amp that I prefer with small venues versus large venues? So one, Seymour Duncan made a Power Stage 100 it's a 100-watt stereo power amp. They've had a problem in manufacturing. I bought one. I got it upstairs. It showed up. It didn't work right. They've had a problem. They're working on it. When the replacement gets here, it'll get here. In the meantime, I went out and bought a second 170 watts per side. If that doesn't get the job done, you've got other problems. That said, the Power Stage 700, which is $600, on the used market, that's an expensive piece of gear, and it's rack mount. So the neat thing about these little, oh my word, there we go. These little Power Stage 170s is that they're small. You can put them on a pedal board, right? The neat thing about the Power Stage 100 is it's stereo if you need it and want it to be, and it is in a pedal board friendly form factor, which is actually really cool. And you don't need two of them. The cool thing about the two of them is it may leave me some options that, well, you have two of them. You can put one of them in the baby rig or put it on a pedal board, right? So, but I enjoy the rack-mounted thing. I really love having the ability then, as I begin to craft this together, to use MIDI to create some larger solutions. Okay. So that was a really long-winded answer, but the Mark 7 has really become my amplifier. So I used that at the baked potato for the first time. It arrived the week before then. Actually, I went up to Boogie and grabbed it. And pretty much I plugged it in, and it pretty much instantaneously, I'm like, there's the sound. You know, again, where am I? This is channel 2, right? Bring the volume down. I'm in the bridge position here. One of the things I love and look for in an amp is I want to be able to turn it way down. Bring it up a little bit more. I mean, and I realize it's coming through the shotgun, so it's not anywhere near as good as it sounds in the room. We'll be kind of making some changes here to fix that. But there's so many, there's hundreds of different tones there. And that's just one of the 9 sounds that I can go to via MIDI. I'm just like, really? Sorry, one of the 3 sounds that I can go to via MIDI. So you can only switch between the 3 channels. You cannot select between the 3 different modes in each channel. So I misspoke myself there. But you know, literally to have, you know, 3 really great tones that are there. And on the clean channel, if you want to use some drive pedals, you can be able to do that. So impressed. So the Mark 525 would be the amp if you're just looking for like, hey, you know what, this will get you through any gig, that. And if you need to, adding a power amp to that. Great question. I'm sorry it took me so long to answer that. Andrew, what's going on? Where can I get your guitar? First of all, thank you very much. I am. There is a company called Gibson that I have a growing relationship with, and there's a guitar reseller in the Portland area, who I won't mention the name right now, but there's been a conversation about doing a very, very limited run of these. That would happen probably sometime in 2024. So I'm very excited about that. I'm actually about to build version 2, thanks to Melissa. What we've got over here is, this was a gift that she got for me. And so Rattlesnake is about to get built in the next week or so. And so Rattlesnake is basically built off the same exact guitar. I think you might have seen me play that upstairs in a case right now. But the interesting thing is I was having a little bit of a tuning issue with the bridge. The one thing that these bridges don't do, so basically this is a and by the way, we've routed out the back panel. Gary's got to make a custom back panel thing, so we just tape it up. But we'll be putting that on there. But basically, this is a top-mounted Floyd Rose, and you can see this little piece right here. This is normally the same kind of goldy stuff, but I reached out to them. I said, you know, do you sell a black base plate? And they were like, yeah. And I'm a Floyd Rose endorser, so I don't remember if they gave it to me. I had to buy it at artist pricing, but they sent that down. I'm like, oh, there it is. And it just makes it a little less obvious on the body. So hang on, there we go, right there. There we go. So that piece, we just kind of combined the black one and the gold stuff, and it's just not quite as big on the body, which I really like. But what happens is over the course of flogging away, there's a spring here and there's a set screw and it just loosens up a little bit. And I think it had just got to the very slightly floating point, and the mechanism that keeps it so you can float on this, I basically wore that out in the first month of having the guitar. And there's certain things that, unlike a traditional Floyd, it just doesn't want to do. It doesn't want to do the floating thing, which really bums me out. But at the same time, I really enjoy the way this guitar sounds, and I'd gotten really, really close to routing it, but I'm kind of opted not to doing it. But now this last gig, first of all, I'm going to do a video about how much should you stretch your strings, either before you do a gig or potentially go in the studio. And I stretched the daylights out of these strings before that gig. And with the exception of the low E string, the guitar stayed pretty much perfectly in tune the entire night. And I was like, okay. And Gary and I had made a small adjustment on the bridge, started to float ever so slightly, and that we think was the cause of the instability. If you don't want it to float a la Eddie, you can hear it come back against the body there. This bridge is great. So I think we're going to go ahead and we're going to put the same bridge on Rattlesnake, and then I'm going to get a mini humbucker in the neck. We're not going to do the sustaining act, at least initially. I'm going to put a mini humbucker in the neck. We're going to put a satch track in the middle position, just to try something different than this. And then in the bridge, we're going to put some sort of hum-canceling P90. And so Rattlesnake is going to be much more of a still getting used to that slide. So I'm going to go back with my oldie. Oh, this is a thinner version. You get the idea. But Rattlesnake is going to be designed a little bit more of a Leslie West kind of a Les Paul Jr.-y kind of a vibe, a little bit more like a Rattlesnake. It's going to have a little bit more bite to it. It's going to be like that, but a little bit more nasty. And it'll be really good for slide work, and it'll just be also great for a little bit more of a classic rock vibe. But since we've got this thing working, you literally just put it on top. You do have to route the nut here to get this to be proper. We ended up putting a proper Floyd Rose nut because this one was kind of like a half. Anybody who ever watched Breaking Bad, a half measure? We ended up just kind of, you don't have to put the route all the way through, but we did put a traditional Floyd nut there, and we just found that adds some additional stability. All that to say, this guitar, we're going to work on different variations. The neat thing about this particular format, and just call it dumb luck, is it's kind of like a Strat. You can put together different configurations. So we're going to experiment with some different configurations and basically create, if you will, a micro line, and then maybe someday Gibson will pick it up. So the interesting thing, so the extreme mode in the Mark 525 is actually really cool. The Mark 525, that little amp, it was kind of one of those things that's, it's this very cute little, hang on. I mean, it's so darn cute. Come here, little amp. All right. You kind of grab it and you're like, okay. You look at this and you kind of go, okay, how much damage can this thing do? And you're just kind of like, all right. So first of all, okay, so I've got clean, fat, and crunch. That sounds like the #1 channel over there now, doesn't it? Foot switch, and then you got Mark II C+, Mark V, and then Extreme. So this guy does not have Extreme, and it does not have Mark V. And I've got it set on Mark Wait. Oh, interesting. Flippin' A. Oh, that's so strange. I take it back. Mark II C plus, Mark IV, and then Extreme. And I'll be darned. Kind of my favorite, high gain channel over there is the Mark IV, and my favorite high gain channel in the Mark V is the Mark IV. And you've got the ability to set the EQ either on or via foot switch for both channels. You can run it in 25 or 10 watt mode for each of the channels, and it does have cab clone, but it does not have cab clone IR in it. And the difference is that, as I understand, cab clone was an EQ curve, as opposed to cab clone IR is an actual IR. But that little amp, pretty much a number of the things that I love most about the Mark 7 are in that box, and for the money, and it's so cute. And you pull it out, and people are like, look at this little baby boogie, and you're like, yeah. You turn it on, people are like, holy flippin' cow! It's just brutal. The clean channel is phenomenal. Gosh darn it. Okay. Can you buy them back for a premium? Oh, look at you. Oh my, not if I'm not going to end up on your couch. Too kind. Thank you. Oh my word. Okay. I've owned and sold them all, still hanging on to the JP2C, and will most likely get the Mark 7, just waiting it out. So first of all, Charles, I'm Doug Doppler at Gmail. I'm going to be doing a range of little micro demos and then kind of a long format, at least one long format on the Mark 7. Would love your hey, don't miss this little list. That would be great. Since you're boogie-eyed, I'm sure you would have some insightful stuff. I've got my list of stuff of what I'm thinking I want to do, and the way I'm going to approach it is kind of how I use it, kind of quote unquote, as an artist, but also as a gear-centric person. That I'm really, like any player, I just want to plug in and have a vibe. We're all looking for a vibe, and in theory, that vibe inspires us to do something. The Nomad combo, gosh darn it, there's one of those on Craigslist. If I show up with one of those, I will be a Nomad. I like the fact it was a 212 combo and had 3 channels. You snooze, you lose. I snoozed and lost. So, Mark, first of all, you could sound great playing through a wet paper bag. So, don't let my wife hear this, but, with a player like you, it doesn't matter what the amp is, you're going to sound great. That said, it's kind of like, a different microphone, like a Sennheiser. 421 is a very differently voiced microphone than a 57. I actually don't like the sound of a 421 on guitar. It's just a little too for my taste. And as much as some people don't love a 57, I think it's a sweeter sounding microphone, a little less that thing. Like it's not my vibe. So I want to play them all. Is really what it is. I want to borrow them all, and I want to document them all. And then the goal here, letting you in on the plot. That's so funny. Sorry. So I also own an Axe Effects for you, Charles. Too bad those Matrix power amps are tough to come by these days. So it's up there. Where's the Matrix? There's the Matrix back. Oh wait, you can actually see the Matrix there. There's the Matrix right. That, although you can't easily tell, is the Matrix. So. Crazy thing is, I got it from this guy in Canada, and I about flipped my lid. It's like, I'm going to be creating a series of IRs before creating a bunch of tones, but the IRs will precede it. And I kind of went out and bought all the right microphones. I've mentioned this here before, so I've got all these crazy mics, and had a conversation with Matt Picona. I was like, which power amp would you set? Matt was just like, just get the Matrix. So the idea is you need a clean power amp. The other thing is that I did an interview. By the way, it just crossed 40,000 views with Justin Crew, Kirk Hammett's deck. And in that, there's kind of one of the Metallica rigs, and there's all the Axe Effects, and there's the Matrix. And I was like, yes. It's like those guys have infinite budget, and if they're using the Matrix, then, well, there you have it. There we go. Don't sell to buy. Zach, the interesting thing is that I'm kind of, there's some stuff that I'm just like, I have I have a little bit of a space issue with the problem. Is the moment. So I'm needing to kind of clear some space. And there's some stuff I'm just not using and won't use. Some stuff has gone to its next generation. Some stuff is just like I'm not going to use it. So I actually generally I've got 2 offsite storages that are full. It gets expensive. All right, I currently own a 2-channel dual Z Recto. A dual Z Recto. What is a 2-channel dual? Oh, no, that's a typo. A 2-channel dual rectum, JP2C, Diamond Hammersmith, Engel Powerball. That Powerball is a great amp, by the way. A Randall KH103, and all the Synergy preamp models. By the way, hiding back over there, and unfortunately, because of my relationship with Boogie and Gibson, I'm probably not going to do anything with them for an extended period of time. My wife's going to kill me for this. But I have a trio of RM 100s, the Randalls, and a bunch of Randall cabinets, and so I basically have all the components in the dime bag rig. And at some point, when it's a little bit more, I have a little bit more leeway to do it, I'll do a video around it. But I've got one of the Buddy Blaze Deans, and it's just like it's. So that'll happen, but those are great. And I also have one of the preamps, and then I've had it since the '90s, a Randall Power Amp. Yes, holy cow! There we go. Couch has the best ocean view. There we go. Well, that's clever. Good morning, Andrew JB. Great to see you, my friend. Congratulations again. I really want an Uberschall. I've never played an Uberschall. I like the landscape video than the portrait. Okay. Or I like landscape. Okay, that's great feedback. There's a whole generation of people that have never actually realized that you only watch, video like this. But I'm kind of leaning there. Oh yeah, 412s all the way. So I'm kind of curious, Charles, which 412s are you leaning towards? And I take it you have at least 2. Baked potatoes with minutes. Looking forward to getting back there. My happy place is Celestian Creamback. The funny thing is I've been doing, part of what I've been trying to indoctrinate myself is, by the way, Sonia, since you're still here, you will be happy to see this. Let's see can I get to it? No. So I finally put speakers in the 212 halfbacks. So I have 3 of the halfback. They're square, but they're internally slant. I've got 3 of those, and one of them only had the pair of EVs. So I pulled those out and put them on the bottom of the 212 halfback cabinets. And then the good folks at Mojo Tone, they make a house speaker that's actually made for them by Celestian. That's an 8-ohm G12C, which is the Celestian that's in the modern vintage amplifiers, but it's also more important the ones that's in the JH100 stacks, of which there's one over there. And those speakers are amazing. So I put those in the top. I have yet to kind of wire them up, but I've got the 2 of them set up with Mark III heads on top of each one respectively. So I'm excited to kind of get that kind of old school boogie rig up and running. Obviously, that will also go really well with the Mark IIc Plus. So I'm excited. So I was thinking about you as I was down there with the screwdriver, pulling them apart and putting them together. So I've got Creamback, but I am going to have to revisit the Creamback there, Eric. I have been extremely happy with the vintage 30s. And they get really, really, really pretty. I mean, for a 412 cabinet, it is so dynamic. I really kind of, the more I play through these guys, I'm kind of like, okay. So the 112s are really important, and they're really good for rehearsal, especially if you got to rehearse someplace that you don't really want to drag a 412 cab. When I was with the drummer that we used for the show, Thomas Perry, Bay Area show, I was like, yeah, I'm going to probably bring a pair of 412 cabinets, to rehearsal space. And I could hear the silence on the other end of the line. I was like, that went over big. So I ended up bringing just the two little 112, stacking them. Yep, the JVM gets sag at high volumes, whereas the boogies really punch through. Like, really, really notice that. And yes, JVM saved Marshall. And yes, JVM is a phenomenal amplifier. There is I can roll this into frame. Hang on a second here. I had a buddy come by the other day, and they needed a little Marshall rig. So I threw a little something together. Hang on a second. Here we go. Now, I can't say what it was for, and I can't say who it was, and I can't say any of that. But it's kind of one of the neat things about, there's the stuff that you sell and there's the stuff you don't sell. And this has some of the stuff that I'm not going to sell. Here we go. Hey. Now look at all that fun stuff. So, all right, come on. Who can put it first in the chat? What is that little green box right there? Come on. Somebody's got to get that. Who's going to be the first person? I'm not giving anything away, and I'm not giving the box away. But who can tell me what that little green box is over there? Come on. I'm waiting for it. All right, who's going to get it first? Come on. Come on, get those fingers going. That little green box. Is the pickle. Paul Richard on the money. That's right. So not only that, this is a JVM 410JS, which is a great amp. It actually belongs to a guy I know that loaned it to me, and it's one of his amps. And then so I figured for this little rig. So this is an older Marshall cabinet, probably 2000s, hence kind of the grill, but the kind of the one single little jack that always breaks. But it's got some old G12 T75s. Can never remember if it's T75 or 75Ts. But great sounding cabinet, and it's kind of for the classic kind of Marshall vibe. Really neat sounding rig. So the pickle. I own. There we go. Come on. Ooh, okay. So I own, that's a half a boost drive. Chris, that's great. Time Machine. Yes. I own 4 Mesa Recto cabs with early 2000 8-ohm V30s, 1 Mesa cab with an 8-ohm 65-watt cream bags. Marshall 412G Lee cab, that's a nice cab, with 16-ohm English V30s. And a Beat to Hell Marshall 412 with 25-watt greenbacks. Channel 3 orange on the JVM is basically Metallica Black Album sound, which I love so much. I wish I would have kept it. Interesting. So, okay, since we got it here, this is one of the few times you'll actually see me poking around on a Marshall these days. For those of you who don't know, and Paul's got one, it's a 4-channel amplifier. And what's neat is kind of, it's very... they did the DSL dual super lead, and then the TSL, the triple super lead, which was one of the worst sounding amplifiers I ever played. And then they came out with the JVM, which is a great amp. Each one of these channels has 3 different modes, kind of boogie-like. There's a mid shift that's going on over here on the Satriani model. You have a gate for the I think you got it for all 4 channels, yeah. So. And then they got rid of the reverb on this one, and there's resonance and presence. But they, instead of the reverb, they give you the ability to have the noise gate, which I think I'd rather have the noise gate if I have the overwhelming need and desire to add reverb on a Marshall. Marshall's reverbs have never been great, ever. So there you have it. So in any case. Great amplifier. The neat thing about that, kind of like the boogie stuff, and obviously they were looking back across the pond. They were like, hey, you know what? Let's make all this stuff MIDI selectable. I will say the one thing that they enabled you to do, as I recall, Kerry King amp. so the TSL, I had a TSL, and it was just kind of, I wanted to love that amp, and the more I used it, the more I realized I wanted to love the amp more than I was ever going to love the amp, and it needed to go, and it has stayed gone. The Master Acorn. Who is the Master Acorn? I am doing very well. I hope you're doing great. Hello, 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 hello. I'll even I'll give you a. Ooh, am I on standby? What have I done? What have I done here? Oh, there we go. What a sweet sounding amp. All right. So. Let's see. So, putting together different star rigs. This dual mono thing, I'm kind of leaning towards doing that. But at the same time, one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the two stereo boogie cabs to create a wet, dry, wet rig. I'm going to have fun with that. I actually know where it is. My dear friend Sonia makes this great little box here called the Fulcrum. You know, the great thing about the Fulcrum that I never really thought about is it's actually really neat is you could put it on your desktop. And, you know, like most controllers, you kind of, you want to put them down on the floor. But what's really neat is that you could just kind of do like that. It's kind of like an expression mouse. So basically, this is a dual expression pedal. One obviously, well, let's see here. There we go. No, it doesn't know his left from his right. You can see the little kind of directional arrows. So this jack is for the up and down expression, and this one is for the left and right. So you basically can kind of have this great expression, but it's almost like an expression mouse. You know, the funny thing is, I'm going to be inclined, I think, to actually set it up like that. That is so cool. You know, I don't know about you, but I have, you know, my feet have a lot less control than my hands do. I gotta try that. What a happy accident that was. All right. So first of all, I'm kind of curious who? Hang on a sec. Chris Alexander. Do I still have my Woody Gem? I loaned my Woody Gem about a week and a half ago. I still have it. I loaned it to the one and only Lindy Day. So there you have that. Ooh, you know, so interesting. So this will be at like a half a point font when I bring it in. So I think Marshall's gonna make a comeback. I think they're gonna figure it out. And you know, there's actually an amp here that I've got. It's actually a Jose modded Marshall. It's kind of like the Holy Grail of Marshalls, and it's a JCM 800. And it's got the sticker, and it's a Jose amp. It used to belong to Joe Satriani, and he sold it, and my buddy bought it, and I've got it on loan here. But I'm sure, you know, there are those who know here is that the Master of Puppets sound is the Mark II C Plus, what I believe is going out of the slave out, going into the power amp return of the Jose modded Marshall, and in turn, I'm 90%. All caps. Got your attention there. Yeah. So that going out of the Mark II C Plus into that, and so the interesting thing is the guy that works on my guitars, Gary Brower. He works on Kirk, and you know he works on Kirk's guitars, and he works on you know all the Metallica gear goes through there. That has strings on it. So the thing is that one of the runners was there from the Metallica camp picking something up. So so I can't play it all. So the thing is that I was asking because I'd just been thinking about that. Yes, the Jose 800. It is a sick amplifier. It's obscene. But the thing is to run the Boogie out into the power amp return of that. So I was like going, well, which cabinet would they have run that into? So I kind of asked the runner because I'd literally been thinking. I think about gear at like 5 in the morning. I wake up. I'm like, well, I wonder what cabinet. And we kind of came to the conclusion it probably would have been a JCM 800 cabinet, as opposed to a Boogie cabinet. So Dave Friedman makes great amps. By the way, how are you enjoying the IRX? You enjoying that a lot? No, Dave Friedman makes a great amp. And there are some questions that my buddy Chris Alexander sent through here. Gosh darn it. So let's see what we can do about that. And I've got it pulled up over here. Hang on. All right, let's take a look here. My dear friend. All right. Has there ever been a company that pressured me to post a positive review? Not classically, but one company whose name I won't mention asked me to do something that was slightly unscrupulous, that it would be inappropriate for me to share, but it was kind of like they asked me to, they didn't really have a complete version of the piece of gear they wanted me to demo. It was weird, and we'll just leave it there. What was the best concert I saw, and what made it the best? What a great question. I will say there isn't a best, but there are a couple that jump out. Jeff Beck at the Greek Theater for the There and Back tour. It was literally, he hadn't done a record. Gosh, I think the last record he did before There and Back would have been Wired. I got that wrong. I mean, it was really kind of like a big deal that Jeff was back out, and he was in top form. Phenomenal, just brilliant show, just brilliant. I would have to say the last G4 experience, Joe Satriani was on every time he picked up the guitar. Just magic. He just picked up the guitar, grabbed a pick, and off you went. It's like a Ferrari. My buddy Emmanuel, that kind of I met through Joe, works for Ferrari of Marin. Melissa and I got invited to a Ferrari gathering event, and so I got a chance to drive one of these Ferraris. And kind of once you've driven one of these cars, it ruins you for life. I drive a Toyota Sienna minivan that I love dearly, but it is a slightly different experience than driving a Ferrari. With Joe, it was just kind of like he just hops in the Ferrari guitar car and just floors it, and you're just like, man, this guy, whatever it is, it just exudes, and every note and every tone and everything was just staggering. And I just kind of wandered around because the people were saying, I just wandered around and just listened from slightly different vantage points and just watch him play these melodies and solo and just effortless. I've just never seen anybody do it that well. Neil Sean, the solo on Who's Crying Now, even though that's not a concert, just like epic. ZZ Top, I went and saw Skynyrd, my buddy that plays in quote unquote my band, Peter Keys, plays with Skynyrd. So Skynyrd was great. But also I'd never seen ZZ Top before, and watching the Reverend just throw it down. He was, I realize I'm not imitating Billy Gibbons, but the idea of I am taking my time. not being in a hurry to get to your notes, I was like, man, he was just so, just. That kind of like, I don't need to be in a rush to get anywhere. That vibe was like, wow. Just, and the whole night he was just like, and his shtick, I mean, they were dialed back, you know, in TV dinner era, but to watch decades later of the polish that's on that car and they just kind of cruise out, I was like, man, masterful. Then there was Crossroads. Clapton, you heard me talk about a few weeks ago. What key am I in? E, okay. That area in the neck in the way I've never seen anybody. He pretty much played there the majority of the time, but it's a spot where, like, Satriani's figured out when people are playing, he just knows where to go on the neck, and you heard everything that he played. He wasn't in a hurry to get there, and it's like, man. The other thing is that I've got this thing for what I call the guitar harmonica. Let's get over here. You. And so Clapton's got that thing kind of going on in his TBX circuit. I was like, oh man, I flippin' love that. So that was really good. And, you know, all the players were there just playing their things. It was just kind of crazy. Do I record my new ideas into my phone, or do I go ahead and record them into Pro Tools? So that's been a change over the course of the past 6 months. When I started to record everything into, oh, there's the wife, hey, into the phone, and kind of discovered that first of all, I've got 1 million voice memos here. It's great to have it there, but I kind of decided, you know what starts happening is that, you know, middle of the night, the muse will wake me up and some idea will be there. And pretty much all the Keeper songs happen like that. Not everything, but just about all of them. And so to be obedient to the muse, quote unquote, I just made myself come downstairs and just be a little bit disciplined in the moment instead of going up into the upstairs music room and just kind of putting stuff into the phone and then going back to sleep and, you know, kind of forgetting about it. Once it's in Pro Tools and I wake up the next day and I come back down, I'm like, oh, that was a thing. Then it's I've got the tempo, I've got the vibe, I've kind of, by virtue of it, put one down on the left, rhythm track, immediately I'll double track the second one, just so I've got a little bit on the left and right, and then the guitar will come down in the middle as I kind of develop kind of a melody idea. And, you know, instantly kind of the song begins to take form. So that way from the beginning, I'm trying to turn it into something instead of just an idea. Great question. And that works really well for me. All right, let me get back over here. There we go. Now, in a little bit, I got to actually go teach guitar, so I'm going to jump in a sec. But in any case, oh my word, still driving, 2 a.m. in Australia, another hour to go. There we go, loving the show tonight. Thanks, my dear friend. Always a pleasure. Brad Gillis live in 1980 Alameda All Stars. There we go. Robert, come on. Going old school. There you go. There you go. And Charles, it's so easy to just fire up the DAW and just track. So I basically always have. You're ready at any point in the day to just kind of jump back in, especially as you're working on a song, to be able to kind of jump in and kind of find your vibe, gets you that much closer to kind of finding your vibe when you need to find your vibe. Gosh darn it. Yes. All right, Zach, thank you so much. Really appreciate everybody. Robert, Brian Fields, hello, my dear friend. Great to see you. Melissa, there we go. And I'm not afraid to use her. Thanks so much, love. I love this shirt. Yeah, Brad Gillis with the Alameda All Stars. Brad's a great player. He actually, we live a town apart, so I was kind of down at the local sushi bar a couple months ago. He had a little baseball cap on. I'm like, I know that's Brad, so I texted him. Yo, Brad. He turns around. I was like, I thought that was you. So it was really funny. In any case, all right. Jay Kirkland, what's going on? One of the biggest memories I have, best inspiration I've had was ever back in the 90s at the Chi Chi Club. It happened to be you doing sound check. Oh, my word, blown away and scared for life in a good way. Wow, Jay, that's awesome. Very kind. Gosh darn it. You know, the funny thing is, what's going on, Diane? Great to see you. Thank you very much. Okay. That's hilarious. Van Halen. So, see, of the Van Halen, I saw the, sorry, I'm going to jump back in. I'm going to take that bait, and then I've got to go in just a second. There we go. Okay. Wow. I'm glad I scrolled back up. Hang on a second. Oh, the Venice West. I got to find out about that. All right, Robert. Awesome. That's so funny. Oh, look at all this great comment. Wait, hold on a second. 16 ohm JCM 800 cabinet. That's what I figure, and that's what that cabinet there is going to get used for. Awesome, Chris. I'm going to be seeing you a little bit later. Robert, thank you. Okay, thank you, Zach, for letting me know about that venue. Jay again. Hello. I'm going backwards. Jeff Beck in the 70s. Robert, lucky you. Holy cow. And yeah, the Brown Eye. For those of you who don't know, that is an amplifier. Led Zeppelin 4, ZZ Doug, that's awesome. Very kind, Robert. You know, the funny thing is that it's really trying to find that vintage vibe in the midst of all of this. I love playing notes, but I love, you know, kind of finding the slow notes too. Calm down enough to get comfortable living in B and F on the fretboard. F. That B flat. a bit of a monster, but kind of adoring. You oh, that's a nice register right there. The G. Not quite as fat as the. I'm gonna have to spend a little more time there. Gosh darn it. All right. Everybody, thank you. I gotta get ready to go to Guitar Gord, hello. If I knew O Canada, I'd play it for you, my dear friend. Great to see you. All right, Adrian, thank you so much. Melissa, thank you for being just such a gem and being awesome. Bent, Tom, how are things in your universe? How's your mom doing? And Brett, you know, we're all dealing with life here, but I'm with you guys. Ron Martin, time to jam. I gotta go. All right, thank you guys, everybody. Tapping blues. All right, thanks so much. What a great way. I say it every week, but that's because I mean it. What a great way to start a Saturday. I wish you a great weekend, regardless of what you're going through, ups, downs, and ups. We get to do this thing. What an incredible gift. Melissa and I were talking about this, the gift of music, but not just the gift of music, the gift of getting to play music, to be able to pick up an instrument. Never put that into words, and to be able to express that, all the good stuff, all the bad stuff, all the nasty people that cut you off in traffic that are really mean drivers that you meet in the Bay Area, you're just kind of like, when did people get so nasty? But then, like, you know, hey, Rob Castaneda, hello, great to see you, my friend. Good day. I won't bother with the Australian accent. I started to, but like, yeah, pleasure, my friend. Hello. My guess is that it's taking you a moment to get home with all the COVID stuff, so I take it you're visiting family. The last leg, Brad. What's going on, my dear friend? Broken Famous Productions. See, who's that? Who's Broken Famous? Gosh darn it. Mom is doing okay, thanks. Okay. the blessing is mine, Tom. So thank you for that. But you know, we kind of all go through it, and so I'm glad we can kind of go through it together. This together thing. The fact that we can commune around this instrument, and it's Michael. Okay, right. Oh, is that Michael Hodge? What's going on, Michael Hodge? All right. Thanks, Chris. Just waiting to see what treatment they want to do. Yeah. Oh boy. Well, I'm keeping her in my prayers, and all of you folks. You just, you know, you do so much, you know, to enrich my life, and so I really, non-invasive is great. You know. So the thing is that I kind of, you know, my dad went through a whole range of course of treatment for at least 5 years, and for most of that time he was reasonably happy. There was a lot of really quality time. You know, there were some times that were a little challenging, but the thing is that, you know, there's, you know, there is better and better care available, and they seem to be having a bunch of stuff. So I wish you the best of options with non-evasive treatment, and appreciate your caring to share that here, and I'm glad that you feel that you can unpack that here. It matters, and sometimes, you know, going through this stuff, I'm a little bit of a loner sometimes, and I'm just really kind of, you know, as I was kind of walking through that with my dad, I didn't really talk about it a lot with people, so, you know, probably to my own detriment, but, you know, so I commend you for taking the time to share, and, you know, so in any case, wishing you all the best, and just kind of, you know, wishing her as well, and comfort in the midst of all of this, because it's a process. All right, Jerry, great to see you. God bless you, my friend, and everybody. Braden, excuse me. 2-hour drive for a free broken guitar. Thanks for the company on the drive. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Much love. 11:03. I gotta go. Y'all have a great day. I look forward to seeing you next Saturday.